Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Tuesday, June 28th. This is Africa 54.
At least 45 migrants were found dead in the United States inside a tractor-trailer Monday in Texas, in one of the most deadly recent incidents of human smuggling. Nigerian churches introduced new security measures after a deadly June 5th attack on a Catholic church. Security experts fear the attack means the threat of terrorism is spreading across the country. And more than 4,000 monkey-pox cases have been reported worldwide in at least 50 countries. But the World Health Organization says the outbreak does not yet constitute a public health emergency of international concern.
An investigation is underway on Tuesday after a gruesome discovery was made in the U.S. state of Texas Monday, where Mexican President Andrés López Obrador says at least 50 people were found dead inside and near a tractor-trailer truck, and 16 others were taken to hospitals in a presumed migrant smuggling attempt into the United States. Police say a city worker at the scene on a remote back road in southwest San Antonio was alerted to the situation by a cry for help shortly before 6 p.m. local time Monday. Officers arrived to find a body on the ground outside the trailer and a partially opened gate to the trailer where 16 people, including children, were found alive.
The patients that we saw were hot to the touch. They were suffering from heat stroke, heat exhaustion, no signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer, but there was no visible working AC unit on that rig.
We have 3 people in custody. We don't know if they are absolutely connected to this or not. This investigation has been turned over to HSI. It is now a federal investigation.
The latest incident is among the deadliest tragedies to have claimed the lives of thousands of people attempting to cross the United States border from Mexico in recent decades. 10 migrants died in 2017 after being trapped inside a truck that was parked at a Walmart in San Antonio. In 2003, 19 migrants were found in a sweltering truck southeast of San Antonio. Moroccan authorities have decided to prosecute 65 migrants who joined Friday's mass attempt to cross into Spanish enclave by storming a border post. Paul Ndiho has the story update.
Video footage circulating on social media sites released by the Moroccan Association of Human Rights organization shows the brutal treatment of black African migrants with their hands tied behind their backs, pleading for mercy at the hands of Moroccan authorities. However, the Voice of America has not been able to independently verify the authenticity of this video. Various media outlets are reporting that at least 29 migrants have died, citing unnamed hospital sources. Moroccan authorities are denying those accusations and say the death resulted from a crash after what they called a stampede and migrants falling from a high fence. Scores more were injured, along with dozens Moroccan security personnel. But the cell phone footage released by the Moroccan Association of Human Rights are reportedly shot at the exact location tells a different story. A massive attempt by migrants to storm the barrier between Morocco and the Spanish enclave of Melilla resulted in the killings of at least 29 sub-Saharan Africans and sparking worse fears. Many migrants are often from different parts of Africa, have spent months or even years under precarious, dangerous conditions in the nearby forest, braving beatings and arrests in multiple attempts to reach better lives in Spain. Nearly 2,000 migrants made their way to the border at dawn, and over 500 managed to enter the border control area after cutting a fence with scissors. Images on Spanish media showed exhausted immigrants lying on sidewalks in Melilla, some with bloodied hands and torn clothes. In March, Spain ended a year-long diplomatic crisis by backing Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara, returning to its decade-long neutrality stance. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters rallied in Madrid over the weekend to condemn the death of black African migrants at the Moroccan border in the aftermath of the attempted mass crossing into Spain. Demonstrators lay on the ground in a staged performance, emulating videos that have emerged in the last 2 days, showing dozens of migrants lying on the ground, some bleeding and many lifeless. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
The International Organization for Migration and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees are expressing profound sadness and concern at the loss of life and injuries reported during attempted crossings of the fence between Nador, Morocco, and Melilla, Spain. Nigerian churches are taking new security measures after a deadly June 5th attack on a Catholic church blamed on the Islamic State West Africa province. Security experts fear the attack in Nigeria's southwest Ondo state means the threat of terrorism is spreading and could soon reach the capital. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
One by one, worshippers are screened at this Abuja church before they are allowed into the premises for the service. Church security and state police posted here conduct the searches. It's a measure church authorities say has become necessary following a recent wave of attacks on churches in Nigeria. Abuja's police said they have often deployed officers to churches, mosques, and public places, but not all public spaces have enjoyed this security.
These days, people just become crazy and go into churches and start shooting. So I think the church will get to that level of arming themselves, against any attack that will come. And that is self-defense. And there is no law against self-defense.
On June 5th, heavily armed men invaded St. Francis Catholic Church in the southwest city of Owo and killed 40 worshippers using guns and explosives. 87 people survived but suffered serious injuries. Some of them described the attack as unimaginable horror.
For such a situation to have occurred, for such incidents to have occurred, lasted for more than 20 minutes, and the police did not reinforce. There was no police presence, no military presence. It means there is no security in this country. So, security is one area the government has to look into.
Nigerian authorities blamed the Islamic State of West African province, or ISWAP, for the shooting, but experts say that was a hasty conclusion. Experts also pointed out that terrorism is spreading in Nigeria. Last week, gunmen in the Kajuru area of the northern Kaduna state attacked 2 churches, killed 3 people, and kidnapped dozens of others. On Sunday, gunmen killed 2 Catholic priests in separate attacks in Kaduna and Edo states. The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, raised concerns about the attacks, criticized authorities for a lack of protection, and urged church authorities to take security measures.
As a body, we vehemently disagree with whatever motive whoever went to perpetrate, those who went to perpetrate such act. The church as a whole should be security conscious and they be prepared. And the next person to you is a suspect.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari promised to address general insecurity when he won office in 2015. With Buhari's second and final term coming to an end, gruesome attacks like the one in Owo are certain to be a central issue in next year's elections. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Officials say 25 people in South Sudan were killed when soldiers battled suspected cattle rustlers in Warab State, which has been plagued by ethnic conflict. The attack occurred at the weekend in a village in Tonj. The Warab State Information Minister says that 18 soldiers and 7 civilians died, adding that many soldiers are still missing. The Ugandan government is ramping up efforts aimed at stopping cattle raiding that has resurfaced in eastern Uganda's Karamoja region. President Yoweri Museveni says he will deploy the army and use technology to eradicate the violence. Mugume Davis Rwakaringi reports from Kampala.
85-year-old Lokonga Lolim, a resident of Letalua Camp village in Kabong district of eastern Uganda, used to raise cattle. He says he had 206 cows that would support him and his children, grandchildren, and his 4 wives. He says all the 90 dependents were comfortable, surviving on cows for dairy products like milk and ghee. Sometimes would sell a bull in the nearby markets and earn enough money to buy other foods like cereals and beans, and use some to pay school fees for his grandchildren, who all have now dropped out of school after raiders swept his village, taking all animals with them.
When I had those cows, my children and I were very healthy. We would drink milk, eat ghee, and also eat some meat. But now, as you can see, I am weak. Since when my cows were taken, I am lacking a lot. I don't have enough energy to carry an axe or a hoe to farm. My children have stopped schooling.
Lokonga says in the past, raiders would still own healthy cows, leaving a few behind for survival. Koryang David, the chairman of Moroto district, unfortunately says cases like Konga's are all too common. Leaders in the area call the latest kind of cattle raiding as into courts commercialized.
That has become the main problem in the region. If your cows are raided, whether there are 1 million cows, the next day you find them in the markets. And these cows, if for some of you that might have traveled, come all the way from Massacre, Barara, all part of this country, you can easily identify the Karamojong cows.
Raiders also kill and harass people. And insecurity in the area means people are not able to go to their farms, resulting in famine and malnutrition. More than 56,000 children between 6 and 59 months are totally malnourished, according to UNICEF. Biko Evarist, the head of program and field operations for the World Food Program in the Karamoja region, explains that a cattle rustling is resulting in socio-economic challenges.
Traditionally, when there would be no food, people would take their cattle to the markets and then they would sell and use the finances to buy food. Now, with the closure of markets, it makes the coping mechanisms very complicated.
In the past, the Ugandan government has conducted both voluntary and forced disarmaments in the region, providing temporary peace and stability. But rustlers have reemerged with advanced tactics involving the use of both sophisticated and rudimentary weapons. Most rustlers are mainly Karamojong from within Uganda. But with the porous borders, there are others that come from across, like the Turkana from Kenya and Toposa from South Sudan. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has met with local area leaders and members of security organs to forge a solution to end the problem. President Museveni says his government will deploy more soldiers to the region and make the practice, as he puts it into quotes, difficult. He is promising to install cameras to monitor the situation.
Because our relationship with Kenya is very good, our relationship with South Sudan is very good. Therefore, this business of doing bad things here and going hiding in Turkana, doing bad things here and going and hiding in Toposa, is just because these people don't have enough intelligence for me to approach H.E. Kenyatta and say, Your Excellency, we are looking for so and so because he did this. If we do that, there's no way Kenya will say, no, don't touch him, no way.
However, President Museveni has not given a timeline as to when the cameras will be installed. For VOA News, I am Mugume Davis Rwakaringi reporting from Kampala, Uganda.
Sudan's military leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says his country will not be frightened or back away as he visited a border region where Khartoum accuses Ethiopia of executing 7 soldiers and a civilian, a charge that Ethiopia has denied. David Doyle has more.
Sudan's military leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, visited a border region on Monday. where Khartoum accuses Ethiopia of capturing and executing 7 soldiers and a civilian. Sudan's foreign ministry alleges the men were seized on Sudanese territory on June 22nd and taken into Ethiopia. It's a charge that Ethiopia has denied. A statement from its foreign ministry said Sudanese soldiers had staged an incursion onto Ethiopian land and that the deaths were the result of a skirmish with a local militia. Addressing soldiers during his trip to the contested and fertile Al-Fashqa region, Burhan said Sudan would not be frightened or back away.
This is why I will support you and stand with you, so you are prepared to protect this area and not allow anyone to trespass again. Your brothers who we've lost, you will restore their rights and show the enemy that we are not soft.
Sudan's foreign ministry has accused Ethiopia of displaying the bodies in public. It said it was summoning Ethiopia's ambassador in Khartoum and calling its own ambassador back from Addis Ababa for discussions. Tensions have been particularly high in recent years. Sudan and Egypt have raised concerns over Ethiopia's massive dam project on the Blue Nile that they fear will affect their main water supply. Conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray has also sent tens of thousands of refugees into eastern Sudan. In its statement on Monday, Ethiopia said it hopes Sudan's government would restrain itself from any escalation of the incident and said it would take measures to de-escalate.
That was David Doe of Reuters reporting. Still to come, a report on the global monkeypox outbreak. But first, Heidi Adams tells us what's on tap for Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, we'll look at the U.S. investigation into the January 6, 2021 insurrection that has shaken the country. Many Americans believe their democracy has been threatened. What are the lessons for the United States and the rest of the world? We'll also look at power blackouts in African countries. Will they get worse? And how will countries on the continent meet their future energy needs? Join me, Heidi Adams, and my guests for an in-depth discussion on these issues on the next Straight Talk Africa.
In other African news, 8 people in eastern Burkina Faso were killed in an attack by suspected jihadists on a baptism party, according to a security source and a local resident. Ethiopia's Ministry of Defense is denying accusations by neighboring Sudan that its army executed 7 Sudanese soldiers. And the UNHCR Special Envoy for Horn of Africa refugees, Mohamed Abdi Afi, tells VOA that Kenya is reversing its decision to close Dadaab refugee camps following discussions with UN Refugee Agency. It's time for a health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. More than 4,000 monkeypox cases have been reported worldwide in at least 50 countries since early May, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Observers say the current outbreak raises serious concerns. However, the World Health Organization has announced that the global monkeypox outbreak does not constitute a public health emergency of international concern, at least not for the moment. For more insight, I spoke with Dr. Mary Stephen, a technical officer with the WHO Regional Office for Africa.
Public health emergency of international concern is an extraordinary event as defined by the international health regulations that puts states at risk of transmission, especially through travel of any potential public health threats. So the emergency committee met last week and advised the DG that the current multi-country monkeypox outbreak does not constitute a public health emergency of international concern yet. But also the mechanism, the way it works for the IHR, if, for instance, there is a rapid evolution of the outbreak, the DG can convene another emergency committee to look at the available data and advise against. Secondly, it also does not mean no action. Countries have been called to take action to make sure that they are alert ramping up surveillance to detect cases, the capacity for laboratory to confirm these cases, contact tracing, to also care for those that are sick, and make sure that the population is engaged so that people understand how it's spread and how they can protect themselves.
What do we know about the origin of this outbreak and the human-to-human transmission?
For those countries in Africa that are endemic, we know how this transmission are happening, but more information is needed to understand the transmission mechanism in those countries, especially in the global north, where this outbreak has not been documented before, and there has been no link with international travel.
A majority of early cases with this particular outbreak were identified in men who have sex with men, which raises the question of sexual transmission. What can you tell us?
As far as we know at the moment is that it's still through direct close contact. But of course, more research is needed to either establish or discard the fact that it can be transmitted sexually.
Monkeypox, as you mentioned yourself, it has been circulating in a number of African countries for decades. Some critics have mentioned a double standard because of the attention it's receiving now that it has spread in Western countries. What is your reaction, and how will this current outbreak change the approach in addressing monkeypox globally and also in Africa in particular?
The current outbreak provides an opportunity to ramp up effort, especially in countries that have been endemic, but also the concerns about the spread in places where monkeypox have not been documented before and there is no link with international travel is legitimate. But also it provides opportunity to ramp up control measures. And the new discourse around the medical countermeasures, the issues of vaccine that have not been thought about before in Africa, I think it's a good opportunity really to understand the virus better and also to ramp up some of those control measures.
What is being done to prevent a shortage of vaccine supply, especially for low and middle income countries, because there have already been reports about shortages in some places?
Vaccination against monkeypox in the general population is not recommended at the moment. It's limited to high risk, either contact health workers, laboratory workers, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be ready and begin to make sure that this vaccine is available. So there is a vaccine that has been approved since 2019, the smallpox vaccine for the prevention of monkeypox, and WHO is discussing with partners in terms of the coordination mechanism for access and ensuring equitable distribution for this vaccine.
What can you tell us about the way the virus is currently behaving on the continent?
We have seen cases, for instance, confirmed in Ghana, in Morocco, in South Africa, and these are countries that are not endemic, but also endemic countries, Democratic Republic of Congo, Congo in Brazzaville here, Nigeria. In Nigeria, for instance, the time they had before this 2017 was around the 70s. So it was a disease that re-emerged, but the country had built capacity. We have also seen suspected cases reported in countries that have not documented monkeypox before. So this is what we are seeing happening on the continent.
That was Dr. Mary Stephens with the WHO. Now, the state of global health emergency by the WHO only applies to the coronavirus pandemic and polio. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @Linachmudu. Esther?
And that's our show for today. Be sure to join Lino Mudu again on Tuesday for her health reports. Well, Americans have been split for decades over the contentious issue of abortion. The U.S. Supreme Court overturned decades of law by ruling Friday that the Constitution does not guarantee women the right to an abortion. VOA's Catherine Gibson has more.
One of the most consequential Supreme Court decisions in recent U.S. history. The overturning of Roe versus Wade, ending a constitutional right to abortion and sending that decision back to each U.S. state immediately led to a call for action from President Joe Biden.
We need to restore the protections of Roe as law of the land We need to elect officials who will do that. This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Personal freedoms are on the ballot.
For decades, disagreements over abortion rights have motivated Democrat and Republican voters at the ballot box. A promise to appoint pro-life Supreme Court justices was a key part of Donald Trump's 2016 White House win.
I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this, it will go back to the states.
Trump nominated 3 Supreme Court justices in his time as president. They each promised lawmakers Roe v. Wade was settled law, but ended up becoming the key votes to overturn it.
It has been reaffirmed many times over the past 45 years.
Now, with Roe overturned, will conservative voters still be motivated to head to the polls? House Republicans said there are more battles to fight at the state level.
The work just begins now to go and protect life even more, because the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade, correcting that flawed decision, finally allows states and Congress to protect life in ways that we never were able to for the last 50 years.
And that motivates young conservative voters like Anna Lulis.
It is super important to pushing pro-life legislation. What you're going to see with a post-Roe America is probably a polarization among the states.
In a Monmouth University poll released last month, 48% of Democratic voters said candidates' positions on abortion rights is a key issue in the upcoming midterm elections. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he expects Republican lawmakers will try to put more restrictions on abortion.
Elect more MAGA Republicans if you want nationwide abortion bans. Elect more MAGA Republicans if you want women and doctors to be prosecuted. Elect more MAGA Republicans if you want a woman to be forced to not have an abortion, even if she were a victim of rape and incest.
And in the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it was crucial for Democrats to hang on to their majority.
The Republicans are plotting a nationwide abortion ban. They cannot be allowed to have a majority in the Congress to do that, but that's their goal.
It's still unclear how much the issue will energize voters. Outside the court, an abortion rights supporter doubted electing more Democrats would make a difference.
In theory, Roe is on the ballot. In reality, it would require 60 Democratic senators who are willing to actually take action on packing the court, on ending the filibuster, on making sure that this is here to stay.
A Politico Morning Consult poll conducted after the decision found that 40% of the American public strongly disapproved of overturning Roe. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
That's our show for today. We invite you to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.